Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome. Welcome. We made it to Tuesday. Wow. It's the 12th of March. And I believe my sister Susan is on the line from St. Louis. You there, Suze?
Yeah, there's a 50-50 chance I'll be here.
Okay. Susan's expecting a call, so she might disappear in mid-sentence.
Right.
Yes, but
you know how it is. I have to make an appointment.
Yes,
a very important
appointment. I have to make an appointment. A very important appointment. No time to sit. What is that? Oh, that's the March Hare. Isn't the March Hare in Wizard of Oz? I mean, in Alice in Wonderland. What's that little song he sings? Oh, I'm late for a very important date. That's what it is. No time to say hello. I'm late. Yes. And that sort of reminded me of, for whatever reason, I have to make
Right, I'm sure that's where I was coming from, too, although I had no idea.
Okay. Well, I have I guess, a cornucopia of unrelated pieces all arrayed in front of me. Not sure what to do first. I wish more of them were sort of light. We managed to stay light most of yesterday, which was very nice. But that left.
And I figured out that if we were playing that 7 degrees of separation game,
yeah,
that I've got 2 degrees of separation from Cardinal Tim.
Cardinal Tim Dolan?
Yeah.
Who's rumored possibly to even be in the running?
Yeah.
2 degrees? Okay, so
yeah.
who are your inters?
Well, I know a priest that I can guarantee you is on close terms with Tim Dolan, who grew up less than 5 miles from where I sit right now. And
Dolan grew up in St. Louis?
He grew up in Baldwin, Missouri, which is the suburb next to the suburb next to mine.
Well, I'll take your Dolan, and I'll say that the other 2 Americans who are even being thrown out there both have Pittsburgh connections. Yes, indeedy they do.
Well, look at that.
This O'Malley guy, I think he's from Boston, he's being mentioned. He was born and raised around here. And then there's Cardinal Wuerl, who's in Washington, D.C., who's been mentioned a little bit, and I have 1 degree with him. I mean, is it 1 degree if you
just know him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could know a pope. Ha ha! I don't know.
I don't think we're going to get an American
No, I don't either. I don't either. And so are they in there now doing it? I mean, it's Tuesday.
I think so.
Yeah. And
actually, I think in a couple of hours they start.
Okay.
They start at 6 o'clock or something their time.
Okay.
At noon our time or something.
Okay, but it's getting close to when they're filing in and doing their thing. And I don't know. There was this piece in the New York Times today by Frank Bruni who says, the odds of anything unusual coming out of this group are, next to none. I mean, you've got a group of old men, all
comprised of old men, a lot of them who have been, put there because they had to be taken out of where they were. I mean, it's like the worst possible group of men.
Oh, you mean You mean they were
A lot of them were kicked
It's like
upstairs.
Cardinal Law. It's like Cardinal Law from Boston, who's there.
Or Burke.
Or Burke. But they're too. I don't know about Burke, but Law is too old to vote for this. You can't be over 80. And I think Law is there. Yes, he was sort of saved by the Vatican when the Boston police were knocking at his door. But he isn't voting. And I don't know how old Burke is.
Burke's
horrible
young
Burke.
enough to vote.
Okay. So, yeah, you do have people that were not doing well wherever they were, and so they were brought into the warm bosom of the Mother Church in the Vatican.
And none of those are there none of those are people who were not doing well because they were too liberal for the church.
No, definitely not. Well, that's the thing. All people who will be in that conclave, every single one, I guess, is that possible? Were chosen by this pope or the pope before. Is that possible? I guess with John Paul II having such a long reign, I think that maybe is possible.
Yeah, it is possible.
So he obviously was a very theologically conservative. So you have 115 men in there, all elevated to their positions by Benedict or John Paul II. And that means that they, are simpatico with that conservative view. And anybody who thinks that that's a recipe for some kind of change, you'd have to be nuts. It's what you're going to see is more of the same. The average age of the electors is 72. And they say geographically they're a mismatch, that there's power, that like, for instance, a huge bunch of them are Europeans, and yet Europe, doesn't have that many practicing Catholics anymore. So they don't have it. So it's weighted to the Italians and the Europeans, when in fact there should be a lot more, obviously, to, I would imagine, Latin America and Africa. I don't know. Oh, who knows? So we'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see. We'll
And he
sit
says,
there and watch
yeah,
the smoke.
he just says the next pope won't be so different from the last two. And when an organization shrouds itself in mystery, it's invariably treated as a cradle of intrigue. Well, of course, if we don't know what's really going on, there's the assumption of intrigue, and I don't even think it's an assumption of intrigue. You bet there's intrigue going on.
Well, there's intrigue. I mean,
yeah.
that whole thing with the Pope's butler, that really isn't going away. And that whole report, and that's not going away, and it's not false. I mean, people do want to know what that report says, and feel probably pretty strongly that they should have a church hierarchy that doesn't believe in assaulting children.
Oh my cell phone's ringing. Well, we'll pay no attention to it.
Your cell phone's ringing.
Yeah. Okay. There's a disquieting little editorial in the Times today saying that there's a conference underway at the UN right now, and it has to do with preventing violence against women. And according to the editorial, there's very little getting done at this conference. And they say that delegates and activists are saying that the people that are throwing wrenches into the work are, get this trio, Russia, Iran, and the Vatican. That's an unholy trinity for the Vatican to be.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, they're trying to, all three of those are trying to eliminate language asserting that religion, custom, tradition cannot be used to duck obligation to eliminate violence. In other words, you can't say, well, my religion does not allow women to do this, and so our custom is, or our tradition is, to beat up women and generally mistreat them and blah, blah, blah. But why the Vatican would cozy up to Iran and Russia on that is incredible.
Well, because their custom is not to respect women either.
They're worried about rape language, sexual language. It says conservative American Christian groups have also criticized parts of the draft, and they join in with the Vatican and Muslim nations. All these people who really don't think women should have complete
equal rights,
autonomy, right?
I was actually just saying to my daughter who's visiting that I, who would never have thought that I would say this, really feel like we really ought to try and pass the Equal Rights Amendment again.
Yeah.
I think it's important because what we've been seeing in the last few years is that we don't have any protections. If a group of men decide that they're going to pass a law that affects only our bodies, they'll do it.
Yeah. Yes, Kevin knows they will.
And I think it's time for us to say, no, you've made it very clear. We need to have the same protections that we've seen fit to write in for other groups that have previously been used and misused. And if there's a group that's been used and misused forever and continues to be that way, it's women. And it has nothing to do with the fact that there are opportunities for women that didn't exist before. It has nothing to do with the fact that there are CEO women now. It has to do with the fact that men feel they have the right to exercise control and dominion over our bodies. And as long as that is the truth, then we need the Equal Rights Amendment.
I'm not going to disagree. Violence against women is an epidemic. A World Bank report estimated that more women between the ages of 15 and 44 were at risk from rape and domestic violence than from cancer, car accidents, war, and malaria combined. So if women are to fear anything and be rational about that fear, their fear should be men.
Yeah.
According to the UN and other sources, more than 600 million women live in countries where domestic violence is not even considered a crime, and more than 3 million girls are facing genital mutilation. The conference will be a failure if it cannot produce ambitious standards that will deliver results to protect women and girls. And right now, it's looking like that ain't going to happen because of all of these entrenched forces that...
Right, because it's our culture to mutilate and kill and abuse our women.
Why, it's our tradition. You just leave us alone.
They're ours. You leave us alone.
Speaking of this, and this is very heavy, I last night watched a documentary that I think, did it win the Academy Award? The one about violence, The Invisible War? It's about violence against women, rape against women in our military. I don't know if it won.
No.
It didn't win. It was nominated. And it's a very powerful piece. And it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch. And the continued reluctance and reticence of our military to really address this issue in any reasonable way is astonishing.
And most particularly in the Air Force. It's the Air Force where it's just...
Believe me, it's everywhere. Yeah, I know.
Well, it's everywhere, but it's,
Here's what... and there was this in the New York Times today. The new Secretary of Defense, Chuck Hagel, says he will begin an internal investigation of a decision by an Air Force commander
Right.
This Air Force commander, one of his guys, one of his jet fighter pilots, was convicted of rape.
He was one of the few that was actually tried and convicted.
Tried and convicted, because most of them don't get anywhere near there. Tried and actually convicted and sentenced to actually serve some time. Not a lot, but some time. 1 year in a military prison for this rape. And the commander nixed the whole thing. After it had gone through the whole process, the commander overturned the conviction, which is kosher. A commander can overturn a conviction of a jury. And
well, it's a military court.
Yes, but why should that be?
So I don't know that there's a jury.
No, I think there was a jury. Colonel, this is a guy named Colonel Wilkerson. The most wide, I mean, they say it's unbelievable the numbers in this documentary make your jaw drop of the percentage of women who in the military have been sexually assaulted. And they figure that only 20%, if that, report.
Right.
Because if they report, what are they supposed to report to the rapist?
Right.
The rapist might be their, the officer above them. Or the person they're supposed to report to might be a drinking buddy of the guy who raped them. And these women, their lives are just destroyed by how they are treated. A lot of them attempt suicide. A lot of them live with unbelievable post-traumatic stress that ruins their relationships.
What I don't understand is why we have so many men. There's a lot of them that seem to think that rape is appropriate.
Appropriate?
Don't understand the concept of rape. They just take what they want.
They still don't get it.
And they don't get it. And we sit around and look down our noses at all of these, countries that drape their women and treat their women like this. Well, I'm sorry. I don't see that American men are doing a whole lot better. If you can't as a woman sign up to serve your country without knowing that there's just a really high probability that you're going to be raped. It's not like 5%. It's not like 10%. I mean, it looks like there's a really high probability that you're going to be raped.
It's true. Wow.
And I'll tell you, my niece was in the armed services and was absolutely terrified because it was happening. Men were coming on to her that were hired ups, and it was constant. And she managed to, thank God, to get asthma from the whole thing and managed to get herself out of there.
You know what in the documentary you see that these women invariably, I mean, it's just so unbelievable. They not only can't get any justice, they are often end up being investigated themselves for
punished for trying to
punished for lying, punished for this, punished for that. And they have to deal and live around and work with their rapist, who nothing happens to, while they're being incredibly badgered. Leon Panetta, last year, testifying when he was Secretary of Defense, said they were aware of 3,191 reported rapes in the military in 2011, okay?
3,000 rapes in 2011 in the military.
Okay, but wait.
Think about that.
Yeah,
that's reported ones, so multiply it by 5.
No, even more than 5. He said the actual number was believed to be as high as 19,000. 19,000. That's coming from the defense secretary. 19,000, with only 3,000 having the guts to try to get some justice.
Really, I have a terribly difficult time with understanding this, and you know that's when people say, well, that's why there shouldn't be women in the military. And no, that's not why there shouldn't be women in the military. That's why we should be asking ourselves what we're teaching our sons.
Right, and what men we're letting into the military.
What are our qualifications for men? Do we just is our ideal soldier just an animal?
Well, they do say, they're able to say that the men who apply for military duty are more likely to have had rapes in their background than the general population, like twice as much time. We got to take a call. Hello?
Good morning.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you a question. This women in the military, and I'm all for women doing any job a man does. I actually think they're better doctors and lawyers to begin with. And I wish Hillary Clinton was in there instead of Obama. But what I'd like to say is, what happens to these women that don't believe this, where they don't want to get into men's careers and stuff, and then they have a draft, and they have to be drafted? It's almost like a certain percentage of them are going to tell what the government's going to do. I don't understand how's that going to work out, although I don't believe we need foot soldiers anymore. I think those wars could be fought without too many boots on the ground.
I think that everybody's always felt that women in the military and in places where men and women have always served in the military, there are you do the job that you are physically and appropriately suited to do, and you have to be able to pass all the physical tests. And if you can't, then you are put in a place where you do
Yeah. Susan, do you have to go? I think we lost her because I think she had to take a call. But I think, even as they talk about women in combat now, they're saying no woman gets into these positions if she can't, pass the same kind of stringent physical requirements that any man would have to. The military was the first that really figured out how to integrate blacks and whites into being together and working together. And that has worked pretty darn well. And the military sort of showed the way for the civilian society. It is hardly doing that in the case of women. We're just really running up into, again, this sort of a male structure, overwhelmingly male structure, that simply does not know how to restrain itself when women are introduced, because women are believed to be objects of sexual release, I guess, essentially. And that's what they're good for. And what many of the women who were raped reported such hostile environments before their rapes, where they were regularly called sluts and whores and mattresses and things like that. I mean, just unbelievable, constant denigration. Hi, Suze. So I don't know. I really think it's extremely. It's a good idea to watch this documentary, The Invisible War, and to have a sense of what the women who sign up to serve their country end up having to deal with. And it's all over. It's Coast Guard, it's Air Force. You're thinking, Susan, of that. That was a horrific thing out of the Air Force's Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. It's a basic training program. Imagine all these young women are down there, their first days and weeks and months in the military, doing their basic training.
And they're young. They're young.
They're 18 and 19.
They're 18 and 19 years old.
62 of them were the victims of assault by their instructors. That's what is known between 2009 and 2012. There was one girl who was in the documentary who was brutally raped. And she was like 18, 19. Her dad was professional military. Everyone in her family's military. And she was this sort of sweet, trusting soul. All she'd ever wanted to do was serve. And she had called her father. And the thing that was freaking her out more than even her assault was that she was not a virgin anymore. She had been a virgin, and this guy took that from her. And that was very important.
That's right, and that was meaningful to her.
And the father telling this story, you know, he can barely tell it. He breaks down a number of times. And then he says through gritted teeth, I told her she is still a virgin. You are a virgin. You never gave your virginity to anyone.
Well, he's right.
Right. But, oh, my God. And then to see, he then sees how the military doesn't deal with his daughter's case. And this is a guy who's red, white, and blue. He's wearing his uniform. He just got back, her father had just gotten back from Iraq.
Right.
And so, it's a huge problem.
It so dishonors all the honorable men that I know.
Right.
That, you know, it makes me wonder who is it that, you know, how is it that this happens?
Well, I'm sorry. It has to do, and we hate to sound like we're beating up on men, but all male institutions, and that's what the military was, essentially.
Well, it continues to be, you know, one after another, the argument for right. Why say all same sex, period. I don't know that, you know, women necessarily, when they segregate themselves, don't have their own brand of awfulness. Who knows?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be around.
Doesn't usually seem, although
it wouldn't be.
I've got. Given that I'm in a family that went to Catholic grade schools, they sure can come up with a lot of stories about
horror ways to torture. But I don't know.
It's sort of not the same thing.
It's very troubling, and we're seeing, you know, I mean, how many times do you have to see this? That this is what happens in these bastions of sexism, essentially. If something is all male or all female, it is sexist by nature, in really, right?
Right.
It's saying we will only allow those who have the same plumbing as us be a member, which seems like a goofy way to have a membership anyway, but that's the way it is. We got to take a break here, I believe.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So we'll be back in about a minute.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Go to BurgBargains.com for great deals on museums, shows, and meals from your favorite local restaurants. This week only, get discounts up to 30% on gift cards to Hyde Park. Supplies are limited. BurgBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BurgBargains.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Oh, the horror! Right before the ban was to take effect, some judge stopped it. And I'm talking, of course, about
Hot drinks.
The big drinks, sugary drinks in New York were about to be deep-sixed, and a judge, some idiot named Yingling, or Tingling, or Tingling. Ooh, Judge Tingling. Judge Tingling said, And you know what? I agree. But he didn't strike it down based on this, nanny state thing or reaching too far. He struck it down because it exempted some establishments that were run by that were under state regulation and only applied to ones that had to have city. And so it's not as though you could not get a big drink. If you couldn't get it at the McDonald's, you walked over to the 7-Eleven because they were exempt. And I think he said that this thing is fraught with arbitrary and capricious consequences. The loopholes effectively defeat the stated purpose of the rule. I agree with that. Don't you?
Yeah.
And then I sort of agree with the general feeling that this is not the smartest way to deal with the fact that people are ingesting too many calories. I don't think this is the way to do it. But the fact is, he goes after large sugary drinks. Well, okay, why didn't he go after French fries, make them illegal? Why didn't he go after candy bars? I just don't get how you single out one item.
Well, and he's not even singling out the product, simply the amount of the product.
Right.
Which you can deal
so
with
I'll
by
get two
simply
small
buying
ones.
3
Yeah,
of them.
I know. What is the point of that?
Well, to me the point is simply it causes a big brouhaha, and it gets people thinking about. It's a gonzo educational thing.
I suppose.
Costs a lot of money if he has to go to court, but.
Well, he is going to. He thinks he's going to be able to save it, but what the heck. I guess you're right. This is a way to educate, or at least get people talking in some kind of a reasonable way.
I've never understood how anyone can walk around with one of those, buckets full of soda anyway.
I know, that is an awful lot.
I don't get it.
Well, some people are really thirsty, Suze. I don't know. Did I tell you the funny story about, speaking, you said bucket, so it made me think of it. I don't even remember if I told the audience this, that they're doing they're mounting, I believe is the proper verb, a new production of Breakfast at Tiffany's on Broadway.
I saw that, yeah.
And Breakfast at Tiffany's has to have a cat in the play because she had a cat. And this was something about how difficult it is to have a cat in a play, because if the cat's got to do something at a certain time, anyone who owns a cat will tell you that's a bit problematic.
Well, if the cat the cat just for fun won't.
Well, and also, imagine, there's a whole audience there, there's lights, there's noise, the cat's supposed to sit still for this scene, this cat's supposed to, walk off the stage at that scene. The cat, give me a break. But they've got to find something, and it was a story about how it came down to these two cats, neither of whom looked like they were really going to get the part either. And it brought up the story of how dogs are, obviously much better at this, first of all, because they aim to please. And
they're trainable.
Well, because they like to please.
Right.
I think that's the difference. Cats don't give a hoot about pleasing you. That's not what they're about. That's all that dogs are about.
No, cats think humans are about pleasing them.
That's right. And dogs, it's like, what can I do to make you happy? What can I do? I'll do anything. That's a dog. A cat is... So, there was a story of how, I think it might have been an Annie, I don't know what, and the dog playing Sandy, who had done this, how many times, and was always doing the right thing, and totally, one play, one night, the dog screwed up. And that throws the whole thing off. The dog kept wandering away from where the dog was supposed to be, to the lip of the stage, to the edge of the stage, and sort of looking desperately into the audience, which of course took away, ruined everything. You know what it was? You know what happened that night?
I bet you the owner was in the audience.
Not the owner. It has to do with a bucket. Some idiots. And I don't know why you would. You couldn't figure out why you walk around with a bucket of,
Brought in a bucket of chicken.
Uh-huh.
The dog smelled.
Somebody had somehow...
I love man more than anything else, except for maybe a bucket of chicken.
Someone, and they were like sitting in the first or second row. And that chicken aroma was wafting up to the stage, and that poor animal could not take it. Just could not take it. Kept wandering over and thinking, hey, surprised he didn't start barking and just jump right off the stage into... It's too cute. So, yeah, that was what happened. Bucket. Here's something a little lighter. So now it turns out that the National Academy of Sciences has published a study which shows that if somebody wanted to really get to know you and you're on Facebook, they can do it. I mean, and they can do it. Here's what they said. I mean, that sounds like all they have to do is look at what a person has liked on Facebook. You know, on Facebook you can give something a thumbs up, say I like this, or a thumbs down, I don't. A study of 58,000 American Facebook users, which arose from an emerging discipline in which experts sift through digital data sets, such as likes and dislikes on Facebook, for subtle patterns and relationships. This study found that they could actually... Well, here's some of what they found. Listen to this. That people who said likes for Austin, Texas, Big Mama movies, and the statement, relationship should be between two people, not the whole universe, those things combined were a predicted drug use.
Shut up.
Yeah, Jess just said, shut up. Now, why would that? It's because they interview all these people. I don't know. They correlated. Big Mama movies, Austin, Texas, and relationships between two people, not the whole universe, which sound like, those are all perfectly fine things, I guess, I'm not into the Big Mama movies, but it says that's a predicted drug usage.
Well, at what point do they get these people that they've researched this way to admit whether they use drugs or not?
I don't know. I think they had questionnaires later. Psychological tests. Demographic profiles, behavioral questionnaires, and psychological tests volunteered by the users whose likes and they got them. They wanted to see if they could predict personal information about a group, and what happened is they became extraordinarily good at predicting what people would like or not like. For instance, the computer model that they came up with, the accuracy was such that just looking at likes and dislikes, they could distinguish between Democrats and Republicans in 85% of the cases, between black and white people in 95% of the cases, and between gay and straight men in 88% of the cases. People who like Bret Michaels, Sephora, and Harley Davidson tend to have low IQs.
Are big dudes on motorcycles in eyeliner.
High IQ users tended to like Mozart, To Kill a Mockingbird, and curly fries.
See, but I take it, I don't... I consider myself, at least, moderately intelligent.
Right.
And here's what I have to say. I don't like or unlike things.
I don't either.
The only time I will put a like, it will be on a personal
statement that
thing,
somebody
like a person, like one of my kids' pictures that they post.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't do likes and dislikes.
I absolutely don't. And the few times that I, for some reason did, I went into my settings immediately and deleted it.
Well, here are the people who don't use drugs. If they like swimming, chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream, and sliding on floors with your socks on. Well, it doesn't take much to make them happy. Let's just put it that way.
Apparently.
Mm-hmm. This is in the Wall Street Journal today. And it's in the Wall Street Journal because this is the kind of stuff that business will be using they'll be able to zero in on each one of us to separate us from our money. Each one of us. And speaking about Americans and separating us from our money, this just a survey of the 9 retailers with the worst customer service has come out. Do you want to know who they are?
Yeah.
All right. I'll start from the bottom and go up. Number 9, Walgreens. They don't give you any, for instances. They just have all these analytics about blah, 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 blah. Anyway. Walgreens, number 9. Number 8, TJX companies. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's Max, Marshalls, and Home Goods. Okay. Number 7, The Gap. And that also includes Banana Republic and Old Navy. These are for worst customer service. Number 6, Super Value. It's a grocery store. Also operates Save-A-Lot. Number 5, Sears and Kmart. Number 4, CVS. And let's see. Number 3, Safeway. Didn't I just say Safeway?
No, you said Super Value. I think.
Oh, okay. Safeway, another supermarket. Number 2. Well, I just used them last night. Netflix. I don't have a problem with them. Netflix. They're like number 2, the second most horrible.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with
Me either. And number 1, Walmart.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Boy, it's sure hurting their business, huh? Poor customer service. Man. I suppose I'll have to start closing down the doors.
They're describing are all places where there's self-service anyway.
Mostly self-service, right. But they also get into, if they have any, like with Gap and all these things, they're also looking at their e-trade and if they do that well, if they, whatever. I mean, customer service in general in this country is crap, I think. It used to be what you got when you had stores that were local and, ma and pa kind of stores that, you knew. And I think the more that the people, the purveyors, were distant from the consumers, the more that service then was not a big thing. And I mean, obviously, is there anyone who would rate any company high in customer service who has to, talk to disembodied voices and press 1, press 2, and...
You see, and I think it's interesting because having, because of in my insurance company, been forced to stop using Walgreens, which was my nearest pharmacy, and go to CVS, I have to say that I much prefer Walgreens. And the reason that I much prefer Walgreens is because they stay out of my business. CVS calls you and says, "Did you know that you're late filling your prescription? Would you like us to fill your prescription?"
Oh, is it that terrible?
Is it no?
Is it a man with an annoying voice?
Sometimes it's a man.
Oh,
sometimes
I always
it's
have
a
man
recording,
with an
sometimes
annoying
it's a
voice.
and I find myself saying,
You can shut
I'm a
him
grown-up.
Yeah.
I will manage my own.
Susan, ask him how to stop that, because you can stop it. I stopped it.
Oh,
You can get on like a do not call list.
which, by the way, don't work. I have never had so many. I no longer answer
No,
my
I
home
know.
phone.
No, but nobody answers
And
their
I'm
home
on
phone.
every do not call list there is.
I know, me too. So that's a bunch of crap, isn't it? Dang it. Well,
It's because now they're just all charities.
it is all charity.
They're charities or surveys.
But you know what they're doing? Like the Carnegie has been calling me every morning for the last, 3 weeks at the same time. I see it on my caller ID, Carnegie Museums, and I think, all right, I know you want money from me. I've given them money in the past, and I'm not inclined to give them money this year because I think about what I'm doing, and I think they got all these rich old people that give them money all the time. I like to give money to places that maybe aren't going to get those things. And so I don't want to even get on the phone with them. So, of course, I let it ring. They hit my answering machine. They hang up. But they just keep coming.
Keep calling.
Now, if it says Carnegie, I'm not going to. So what a lot of them are doing now is they don't use phones from they have their telemarketers use their cell phones.
Right.
And so you see cell phone, and it's the right area code, and you think, I don't recognize everybody's cell phone, and I might not have them in my. And those are the ones where you think, geez, could this be so-and-so? I was sort of expecting, or could this be? And those are the ones where they're getting you every once in a while. But also, usually if it's just a cell phone number, I don't pick that up either.
Well,
So-
I gotta say, I have one line. If they ever get through, I have one line, and it's that I don't care who you are. I do
don't
not
give
make
over
my
the phone.
charitable decisions over the phone in this way. Send me material. Goodbye. And I will not. I just will not, because it's and I understand that whenever I give anybody money, that my thanks is going to be that they are going to hound me to the end of the earth
that is
until
true.
I do it again.
That's true. I think a lot of people get very annoyed by that. If you do give them money, they are back next month soliciting more. Certainly.
Yeah. Can we have some more? Right.
And it never
'Cause you're
stops.
on our likely to give list.
That's
now.
right. And so they'll never let you go. Never let you go. And it becomes like this. I mean, all my mail is and all my phone calls are.
That's right.
Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me
money.
money, give me money, give me money.
So I'm just here to say to anybody who might be thinking of calling me, you shouldn't call me, because I, like my sister, decide who I give money to, and then I give it, and then that's that.
Yeah. So there. And I'm taking
And it isn't, yeah. And I, like my sister, don't necessarily go to the,
the usual suspects.
right.
Yeah. I haven't given to United Way in a million years because...
In a million years, I won't give to
because-
Susan B. Komen, and that was before I knew why I didn't want to give
I won't
to
do that
Susan B.
either.
Komen.
And I won't because I also found out that like giving to Planned Parenthood. If you give to Planned Parenthood of the U.S., the American one, that might not be as effective as giving to Planned Parenthood of Southwestern Pennsylvania, which, by the way, if you look
give to your local place where you know that it'll go for the services
Right.
you want it to go for,
Exactly
and not
right.
for them to pay people to call you to get more money.
Exactly right. So I don't know. Whatever. Here's a caller. Hello.
Good morning, Lynn and Susan.
Hi.
Have you ever gone to Gap recently? I agree with the survey. There's some very snooty people there now. I don't know what's going on
The Gap.
But-
Yeah.
at the Gap. But getting to this, to the telemarketing thing, here's the one that I find very interesting, is that when you have the businesses calling you to tell you that you qualify for some discount, and you get that weekly call, how about just giving me the discount and let it reflect on my bill? You get or you get some other company. I know locally there are calls being fielded with I believe the power company
Oh,
and
yeah,
the gas company both are offering
The electric utilities. Hey, we can give you a better deal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So that's a technique that is being used as well. I just don't answer my phone.
No, none of us do. So the phone has now become this instrument of annoyance and torture. Seriously.
Right.
I'm going to start. My guess is my phone rings maybe 7 times a day. Okay, I'll say 7, 8 times a day. And, okay, I'll say 8 times a day, and I will say that 7 of those 8 calls are annoying calls, are solicitations. So
I was going to say, well, a few of them are from me.
What? What did you say?
I said a few of them are from me. That would have put me in the annoying category.
No. But it's so rare that I look and it's you or it's Mom. And my friends rarely call. We were talking about this. They'll call my cell phone or they'll text me now.
Right.
Oh, brother. So
no, I mean, but that is true. I tend to email my friends, and then we see each other to actually talk. We don't sit on the phone and gab for hours.
No, we don't
I don't think
anymore.
People have, I don't know.
Well, we're just not doing it anymore. We were talking about this the other day. It's very odd, very odd, very odd. Things are changing. Okay, I got to get a break in here.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for our special summer camp section. Plus, Joel McHale, Lord of the Dance, and the latest news on Ravenstall and the upcoming mayoral election. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right, here we are. That'd be me and my kid sister, Susan. So one of our local columnists, Tony Norman, did a column on Mother Teresa today. The reason being, researchers at the University of Montreal have compiled a very critical study about her life and ministry. And, you know, she's already been beatified, hasn't she? I think. So she's on her way to becoming saint, Mother Teresa. But what they did is they combed through all the public records and speeches and reports and yada, 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 yada. And their report can barely disguise the fact that, quote, they're a little creeped out by the woman the world knew as the Saint of Calcutta. Now, Susan?
Yes?
You didn't ever happen to read the screed that Christopher Hitchens wrote about her?
No, I didn't.
Well, it was as brutal an evisceration of a human being. And this is in her heyday. I mean, she's alive, and he comes out with this book that he, of course, was condemned. I mean, people wouldn't deign to talk about him. Now we got the University of Montreal essentially saying Hitchens got it right. The researchers say that she was a pain junkie, that she didn't alleviate people's pain as much as she sort of reveled in it. They say the Vatican is ignoring her, quote, dubious way of caring for the sick, her questionable political contacts, her suspicious management of the enormous sums of money she received, and her overly dogmatic views regarding abortion, contraception, and divorce. They say that the researchers were genuinely scandalized by the unhygienic conditions in her so-called houses where her sick and dying women were under her care. And it said she had the financial and political resources to alleviate much, much more pain and suffering than she did, but chose not to because she believed it was beautiful to see the poor suffer.
Oh, my God.
The people who wrote the report said they were just creeped out by her when they really looked into it. Anyway, Tony Norman tries to defend her a bit by saying, oh, so you mean she's human? Oh, so she managed to do some good stuff. But, she took up with horrible dictators and never confronted them. She would take blood money from them, never dealt with the evil that they perpetuated. Her critics were onto something, Tony Norman says, when they point out obvious deviations from decency, like her religious order hoarding millions of dollars in banks where it was not used to help anyone. Never built a hospital. I'd heard, Hitchens, this is what Hitchens said when she was alive. So, but none of this will have any impact on her becoming a saint, I'm sure.
Well, because there's no sense letting the facts get in the way of a good myth.
Yeah. Right. And so, I don't know what Tony's point just is so, yeah, here's a news flash. Mother Teresa was only human, and maybe not even an especially good human.
Right. She just sounds like, the sister of Marat Sade.
Yeah. Well, it might be worth it now having these academics having looked at it and come up with the same conclusion of the firebrand Christopher Hitchens. It might be interesting to go back to Hitchens' book on her, because I think he probably had her dead to rights. It's something. God. Well, I don't know what to make of any of it. I do not know what to make. Hey, Colorado, the Senate has advanced strict new measures on gun control. Not good?
Well, depends.
Well, they require universal background checks for private gun sales, limit ammo magazines to 15 rounds. They are actually going to charge a fee for background checks, require those convicted of domestic abuse to surrender firearms, require residents applying for permits to carry concealed weapons to take in-person training classes. And this is a state with a long, long history of a culture of hunting, sport, gun ownership. But that's moving forward. Also, a study that came out said that gun ownership rates in this country have plummeted. Now, all this goes against what our sense is. We see these stories of people lining up to buy 7,000 more guns and all the ammo they can get their hands on. The fact is the rate of gun ownership has dropped everywhere. In every section of the country. It has dropped in urban centers. It has dropped in the rural areas. It has dropped in suburbs. You name it. It has dropped among Republicans. It has dropped among Democrats, independents. The household gun ownership rate has fallen from an average of 50% in the 1970s. Half of all American households reported having a firearm. To now 35%. From 50 to 35, and that is going down. Actually, it's 34% in 2012. So what we're seeing is a concentration of all these guns in a few households. Right?
Right.
The geographic patterns were some of the most surprising. Gun ownership in both the South and the mountain region, with states like Montana, New Mexico, and Wyoming, dropped to less than 40% when it had been as high as 65%. The Northeast also dropped. It's at 22%. Young Americans plummeted. Young Americans do not have guns. Americans under the age of 30, it fell to 23%. And even a slight decline among Republicans. So that seems to go against all of the rhetoric we hear and all of the... It shows how loud the screaming memes in the gun lobby are. Because they make it seem as though we Americans are a gun-toting nation. We're not.
No.
We're not.
At least most of us.
No. Oh, here comes Ray. Ray, who is a good Catholic. Ray says, I read the Hitchens book and found it very compelling. Mother Teresa was not only human, she was a tool of the multinational money laundering that funneled billions through the Vatican. It's not a nice story, but it is overshadowed by the lurid pedophile stories. Oh, dear. Here we come back to...
isn't it? It's always thus. Follow the dollars.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. Isn't it much nicer to think Mother Teresa was a saint than to hear that she was essentially a money launderer and a
money laundering sadist
and a pain junkie?
But not her own pain.
No, she really subscribed to that very bizarre kind of Christianity that says that, you suffer here on earth and then you are given over to God's, heaven. And maybe she got off on the suffering of these poor women because many of them were, I don't know, what the hell?
Nina, excuse me,
Lynn.
You can't figure out
no
what it was that
no.
that pleasured her about this. You don't know.
I can't.
Just that it did.
I can't get into that strange little brown wrinkled woman's head. Yuck. All right. So.
Yeah.
I think we did it.
We did it.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Talk to you probably next week.
I would hope so. And thank you so very much.
Bye.
Bye. And bye to you, Chris Potter. Tomorrow we'll get into much more of the political stuff going on the local front here. Wasn't going to bother Susan with that kind of stuff. And anything else that happens to pop up in the interim. Okay? Enjoy your day. Tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.